Welcome to a new episode of the XR Magazine podcast. My name is Diana Olenik, your host, and today we're going to be speaking with Barry Murphy from the team at Anagram. Anagram makes interactive and immersive experiences, each one of them getting the audience to move, think, talk, and participate. Perhaps you have a glimpse of being someone else, or you find a corner of yourself you had forgotten. Perhaps you just have a great time and get swept up in the story. From meticulously designed theatrical sets to ancient buildings and wild forests, each piece gets you entangled with a place. The team at Anagram are experts in understanding and using new technologies, including virtual reality, augmented reality, and other XR tools. And today we'll be speaking with Mary Murphy, who is Goliath's director and writer. Goliath is a piece of art that is showcased in the Oculus Quest. Barry is a mixed media filmmaker working with Anagram using new technologies to tell compelling stories. Always attracted to the intersection of art and technology, an engineering dropout went on to study animation in Dublin and London. Barry finds the emerging power of game engines and immersive storytelling to be the perfect place for him to be having worked in all spectrums of the visual field from exhibitions, advertisement, live performance, music videos, and documentary filmmaking. I'm super excited for this episode today and speaking with Barry, bringing us to the attention all of these processes that happen in the creation of pieces like Goliath. I can't wait. Let's do it. Thank you so much, Barry, for being here today. I'm
Thanks,
super,
Diana.
super excited. How are you doing today?
Hi, I'm good actually. Yeah, it's cold here in London, but it's nice and clear, and yeah, it's
Yeah, thank you so much. Yeah, I am all the way from Canada bringing today this amazing story and background, and also a little bit of the work that Anagram has been doing. So, what if we start by speaking of how did Anagram got started and your own background as a director and all your experience?
okay. Yeah, well, I can speak to so Anagram started around like 2015, I believe, with Amy Rose and May Abdallah, and they're two friends who kind of, I guess they saw something in. They both came from journalists. They were both journalists actually, and kind of sound artists and journalistic filmmakers who kind of worked for Al Jazeera and all these kind of stuff. But they saw kind of like something really interesting that was happening with like technology at the time, like so mobile phones and all of this like the new kind of Oculus headsets and all that. There was a kind of an interesting kind of murmur among the kind of like that community, and I think that they kind of got involved in that. I believe they did a kind of residency with this with this really kind of like breakout theatrical group in Brighton that kind of set them off. And I can't remember what that collective was called. But from there, they kind of the origin really was that they started this. They developed this piece called Door into the Dark, and it was like using technology in a very interesting way, and it was asking people what it meant to feel to be what it was to be lost in the world. And it used a very cool setup in a large venue where the audience was asked to kind of don a headset, like a photo, like a motorcycle helmet, and wear earphones, and then they were completely isolated from sight and stuff, and they could only hear what was in the headphones. And they took off their shoes, and then so they were barefoot in the room holding a rope. Okay, and then they would listen to like the testimony of three people who were blind essentially. And I think John Hull from Notes and Blindness, I don't know if you know that, he was one of the people. And so you would follow this rope until at some point the rope would end. So you were found yourself completely lost in this huge environment. and having to kind of like navigate the world with just, you know, your kind of instincts, so to speak. And as far as that piece won Tribeca that year, I think it was best immersive experience or something, and it was their first piece, and so that kind of set Anagram off in a very good kind of footing to kind of like, you know, just, you know, I think people, they just started to get people excited about their approach, and you know, they weren't just using the kind of the technology as a show off for itself. You know, it was more, what can the technology do for the story, and why is that technology relevant to the story? And that's been the kind of Anagram kind of thesis ever since. You know, that's the core question that we always ask, is like, why are we doing it? Why are we engaging with this technology? And yeah.
Yeah, that sounds amazing. It's like
Mm.
giving real life into the story and using the tool for that purpose rather
Yeah, don't let
than
the
just to
yeah,
show that now we're using these tools.
yeah,
Yes.
don't let the tool decide. I guess, you know, I
Yeah.
think that's something that's important.
Just how it can really support the story or the
Hmm.
experience. Yes,
Yeah.
that's amazing. Thank you. So I understand there is a great experience that is out there called Goliath.
Hmm.
And I found that that one is very interesting as it is bringing elements from schizophrenia, gaming, connection. So all of these ones, you know, mixed together to create this beautiful piece.
Hmm.
Could you let us know a little bit more about what Goliath is about,
Hmm.
how it was created? You know, like if you can help us to understand the background,
Yeah.
because it's many more people should know about these type of creations that you've made.
Yeah. Okay. So Goliath was it came about because it's actually a very personal story to me, because it was a friend of mine's brother who is the protagonist, and we were always kind of like, you know, my friend was really struck by how, when my friend, who was his brother was hospitalized for quite some time, and heavily medicated after a schizophrenic episode. And you know, he didn't really recognize his brother. You know, he thought he was gone. He thought the medication had completely stripped him down to nothing. And it was only when he got released and he could be out in the real world, he started online gaming, that he started to recognize his brother, like when he was gaming. His voice changed, his countenance changed. He became much more like the brother that he remembered. And so, you know, there was something there that, like, you know, at the time I was like just an animator, you know, trying to work with animation and documentary. And I really wanted to make something along those lines, you know, like something that had game engine technology, using game engine technology, but also had a, you know, like some, like was weighted in the real world. Because I find personally, like I really like animated documentary. I love the real world testimony, you know, the voice, the experience of these people, the very brutal stories sometimes, but then juxtaposed with, you know, this kind of ethereal animation where anything can happen, and it's very metaphorical sometimes, and there's quite a lot. It's a very rich playground to make work, you know, straddling those two kind of mediums. So at the time, I think it was like 2018, many years later from this story, that we myself and May, we'd made like a VR piece called Make Noise. And you know, we'd gone to Venice, and we got excited about like how, you know, the way that like these new interactive kind of like showcases that the festivals were supporting were, you know, were popping up around the world at IDFA and Tribeca, Sundance, Venice, you know, all these kind of like, you know, great kind of like, you know, environments with like this new crowd of people, like, you know, like just trying out all these interesting kind of things. And so we learned about the Venice Biennale College, essentially. And we just filled out a form one evening, and we decided we were going to try to make Goliath, basically. That we thought that, like, you know, the story was really compelling, and you know, the using VR with, you know, like the idea of playing with reality, you know, like it's like when you're in a psychosis state, like, you know what I mean, what you don't know what is real, and you kind of have to be kind of like told what is real in a way, you know, because you can't trust your senses. And so we felt that there was something with, you know, VR was like, you know, a good way to tell this story, you know. And so we kind of we applied to the Biennale College, which I like I would recommend anyone do. It's a brilliant, brilliant resource. It's kind of like a like a 5 day retreat with some great minds who help you put your ideas together on paper, and you have to, go through and make a speech about it and talk out to people and like really boil down your kind of the idea for what your elevator pitch essentially. And so we did this kind of residency, and really took it very seriously, and it we found it very difficult to get to the ideas and just like kill old ideas and try to push it forward. And after that process, we had a kind of like something that we could take around to people and get them excited to kind of help us make it. And from the very beginning, like the story of Goliath, just got people understood it very simply, and it just caught on, and people wanted to help make it basically. So we had help from Creative XR in England, who were an arts council kind of funded initiative, and they helped us build a prototype, so to kind of give us the resources to take time out and kind of do, like we did a residency on the west coast of Ireland at a friend's little cottage, to kind of really isolate ourselves to come up with like, good stuff. And we built a prototype, uh, and from that prototype we had something to kind of like get people interested in properly, because like on paper and in an elevator or at like any kind of funding kind of initiative places or producer meetups, whatever, just pieces of paper and like don't really kind of push it. You need to have this kind of a little working kind of model of what it is. And so we created the prototype and we exhibited it. We stayed up like for like 2 days almost getting it ready for this like demo in London, and we showed it to like many people. And from there we secured some partners that were like really wanted to get it made, because what we found out, actually really funny enough, is that every like somebody like most people that even worked on it and everyone who kind of wanted to help, like their reasons for helping us was very personal. They knew somebody in their family or a friend or someone very close to them had like a psychotic episode or had schizophrenia, or was kind of like in a like in was touched by that kind of like condition, and they just felt it was like an important story to tell. And so we were lucky in that way. Not lucky in it that everyone has schizophrenia, but we were lucky that, we found, you know, a lot of help and a lot of people who knew why we were making it. Yeah.
Yeah, wow, that sounds super, super exciting. And especially, I think that I want to highlight the fact of how you went that route of concentrating, getting very focused on let's build this prototype,
Mhm.
believing a lot in that idea and making it real as a prototype. What challenges did you find while making the actual prototype and how
Oh
did
yeah.
you overcome them?
Okay, so I guess like when you're making VR, when you're making something like technology based and theatrically based and from all different things, I think it's your core team that really help make it. Like there's no, it's a very strange kind of dynamic for people to step in and do the bit that they do, the best bit. That's what I do, and so we had a very good core team. We had May and Abdallah helping me write, and Michael Golombowski, a great mind, a great developer, and we had some really strong kind of like producer like Anita Jones, who was very driven, and so it was just in the core team. And also like it wasn't an easy process, like trying to kind of like manifest this a VR piece, like the tools and the methods that people use to kind of like make films and stuff, and all of those kind of processes or the tools that they make to develop like games or apps, they're not quite the right tools and processes that you require to make a good VR kind of like immersive experience. So in a way, it's a the processes were mishmashes of trying this and trying that, and like short bursts of workshops, and using kind of processes called agile, and stuff to get like through and iterate, a product, the product very quickly. I think what we learn mostly is that you have to get to, a complete like vision, a complete package as soon as possible, so you can iterate it on as quickly as possible. Because like it's not like, I guess it's quite different than, making a like a short film or a film where, you can see everything and, because you've got 100 years of filmic language behind you to kind of, you intuitively know that edit is working and stuff like that. It's much more difficult to kind of imagine that edited human experience, the kind of the first person, immersive view is much more difficult to kind of to know that you're right and correct and this will work. And so in a way you're building like a small machine that has to kind of do all of these things and work perfectly. So that's the challenge. But at the same time, the human experience like is um the most elusive part to get right. And we got that. I think we what we did quite a lot was, and that was thanks to Anita and May pushing for the notion to get to test on a lot of people, to test on as much people as possible, and get that cruel feedback, that you don't want to hear, from your clients, or if you're making stuff for a film for your audience, they can tell you bad things. But like we got the audience feedback as early as we possibly could, so we could adapt to it. Because it's a when you're talking about mental health issues and you're talking about, trying to represent like this condition in the best possible way, considering the media have been, representing it so badly for years, we felt really responsible about the message that we were trying to send. And so we had to ask as many people as possible, and get the kind of get that balance right to make sure everything we could possibly say was on point.
Yeah, amazing. Yes, definitely it's a very great experience, because it gives you the perspective of how that could be experiencing that world. I think that the thing that I mostly love about that experience is this also philosophical, but in my opinion, is not so philosophical anyways, about idea about what is real and what
Hmm.
is not real. When you
Yeah.
mention depends on the senses, like what is
Yeah.
real or not. It just
Hmm.
depends totally on what the senses are experiencing. Because if we would
Yeah.
experience in any other type of world, even if it's virtual, it might
Hmm.
become real if the senses believe that that is the real reality, let's say.
Oh yeah, yeah,
This
for
is
sure.
so fascinating,
I
right?
think,
About
yeah,
virtual reality is crazy. Because at
it
what
is.
point virtual reality or the devices are going to give us the opportunity to put meshes all around? And so
Oh
how are we
yeah.
going to distinguish?
I think that in a way, like if philosophers will probably say we probably have those meshes already, in a lot of ways. I think
Yes,
there's
yes.
definitely the question of reality. Virtual reality definitely is a very good area to study, like from a philosophical perspective, I think.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I love it. I'm so glad that I'm not the only one that had these reflections of, wait a minute, if what I'm seeing right now seems real, what if we are also an iteration of that other type of virtual created world, but we now believe is real, you know? So
Yeah.
yeah, it's amazing. Yeah,
And
the
yeah, and I think
philosophical
that
part.
as we move forward, and even like the way America's so politically divided, there's like almost there's two sides with completely different versions of what they think reality is, or and the way that mixed reality is coming in, like with tech. And I think that the idea we have to kind of in a way step up our kind of awareness and our kind of like senses and ability to kind of like discern what reality is. I think it's kind of very important, or we're all just going to get lost in a sea of multiple realities, which is
Wow.
scary.
That's interesting. I wonder how many people are afraid of that, right?
Oh, I
And
think,
why?
yeah, I know. Like, I'm not afraid of it, but like, I
Mhm.
think that I think people, you know, just
Yeah.
learn, don't they? We just learn.
Yeah, for many people that might be some like a challenging idea. The fact that we might not have total control of what could happen if it's kind of like what is happening right now with the cell phone, that we thought we had the control, but we see each other in places, in public
I
places,
know, yeah.
everybody's with the phone.
I
So it's
know.
kind of like we're
Yeah,
getting there, even with another device that is going to be even more enticing than this one.
yeah. I
Mm-hmm.
think it's up to the people who are developing and working with it to make sure that it's something that like
It connects with the
makes
people.
us, helps us and saves us time rather than creates like more time for us, you know, and I think it's
Absolutely.
something that appends, yeah, and helps.
Absolutely. That is kind of like my view of this technology. How can we create something that is meaningful but is not asking you for dependence?
Yeah, yeah.
How we can create something that is educational, that you can put aside and you can even abandon it because it's a tool. It's not totally, like what we should be
Exactly.
necessarily living in all the time.
Yeah.
That is like the best. In my XR design workshops or talks,
Mhm.
this is what I bring towards, like the attention of
Yeah.
that, how that has to be integrated in the design process, I feel
Yeah.
kind of
Yeah,
like ethics
filmmaking.
and all of that. Yeah,
Yeah.
interesting. Thank you so much for sharing that. So, what are your best tips and tools for creating immersive entertainment design experiences? Because I believe Anagram has such a rich, you know, pipeline maybe of creation that is so good, so people might want to know what are your recommendations, tips, tools, etc., for
Um,
immersive entertainment design.
well, you know, we primarily work, you know, like it's completely idea dependent, but I feel, you know, like we share quite a lot of stuff on Miro, kind of ideas and links, and you know, we kind of try to talk and write iterations. We use Google Docs a lot to kind of like, you know, write quite a lot of ideas. I think what we're starting to use Coda for this, for a project that we're starting now. Actually, I don't know if that's how that's going to work out, but I know that we're working with a fantastic interaction designer, and she's like persuading us to use Coda because she uses it all the time. Um, I like to work with like Google Docs and Miro. Miro seems really nice. Um, like CG wise, like I use Maya, but you know, I really want to start using Blender, you know,
Yes,
because of the
I use
open source
Blender.
aspect of that. Um, and you know, and we know our way around Unity, so we kind of like build generally on Unity. But I think that the like on the back end, we've got like Excel spreadsheets. You know, you have to get really passionate about spreadsheets, you know.
Yeah.
For like when you're working in technology with all of these assets and stuff, you really need to, you know, put those assets up there and just tablify them and like, you know, have all the data and track them and, you know, and kind of like, you know, make sure that, that you're aware of every single asset. I think that's one of the kind of things that I learned the most was just like, you know, defining the project in a sense from what are the ingredients in it, and you can't really do that without getting the spreadsheet out and like just writing all of those objects down, you know, whether it's sound or code or, you know, FBX sequences or like animation sequences. You need to have like all of that information there for everyone to see. um as a director, it's very difficult to kind of like it's all inside your head, you know, and to get it all out, and you think you're being detailed with your descriptions, and but from someone else's perspective it's just not enough information, you know.
Yeah.
And it's about getting that shared vision, like that everybody knows and gets is on the page. That's the difficult part. And I find it's like it's just finding people that you work with well and just making sure and just keeping that relationship going, you know. And you know, that's kind of the way that, you know, I think it's important is
Mhm.
just to keep you know, keep the crew like, you know, going. And you're always learning, and nobody like I feel like nobody's an expert in this field, and you kind of have to be wary of people who like claim to know everything. And I think you have to make a lot of mistakes, and but you have to make them as quickly as possible. So
Yeah.
so you can change direction or
Mhm.
improve on it because it's in constantly improving thing. You're never going to be happy with what you do at that time. There's always something wrong with it, and there's always something that you need to change, but you won't always have that resource. So you have to pick and choose. We did quite a lot of like, nice to haves, must haves, and descope, kind of like points in making Goliath where we had to just let go of ideas because there was just no time or we
Too
couldn't do
much.
it
Yeah.
and it wasn't important, it
Yeah.
wasn't important to the story.
Yeah.
So yeah,
No, that's
there's quite a lot
amazing.
to learn.
Yes, yes, for sure. So, what is your take on using Unity versus Unreal? Because I
Oh
understand that Unreal is used for also as well for
yeah, like
filmmaking and stuff.
they're
So, how is your
I think
experience
they're
with them?
all they seem about great. Like I actually started my first project ever in 2000 like 13, 14 was using Unreal with my friend Owen, and we were doing a kind of version of Ulysses, like a chapter of Ulysses for his project, and I used Unreal, and it tied in very well with Maya. And but I think that at the time Unity had a much better like support network of forums and people
Oh.
willing to help. And C sharp coding versus C++, plus plus, like I think it was I thought, I always thought it was very hard to find someone who like can code in C++ plus plus because
Mhm.
the finance industry is like stealing them all. They're all making hundreds of thousands of pounds like working in finance, like on the
Mhm.
back end of some computer working 2 hours a day, and like very
Mhm.
happily, like so I thought like C++ developers were harder to find, and so Unreal is in C++. But like and then once you kind of, I don't know, once you kind of get somewhere so far with a piece of software, it's very difficult to kind of just like completely up and change and do a new kind of like
Yeah.
methodology. And I don't think they're that similar.
Mhm.
um, but like, like in the future, like, I definitely wouldn't rule out like trying to make something Unreal. It seems that everything seems to look really good straight away in there.
Yes.
You have to work a
Mhm.
little bit harder in Unity to get
Yeah.
that.
Mhm.
But
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, amazing. Thank you so much, Barry. I'm super excited with all the amazing experience that you've shared, the journey, how actually is the work inside Anagram, tools, recommendations, etc. It's been fascinating to hear about that, and especially sharing the background story of Goliath. I'm
Mm.
inviting everybody to go and check any of those stories. There are many more that can be
Yeah,
experienced in
there is.
VR. If you want to just close this session by letting us know what other experiences they could experience in, in Oculus, or
Oh, what do they like?
what
What's
what other experiences there are, like Goliath, and there is
oh,
other
like
ones
our
that.
favorites. One of our favorites is
Yes.
Notes on Blindness. Definitely,
Ah,
that's
yes,
beautiful.
yes.
Um, like what else would I say? You know, any of Atlas Five's productions are really good as well.
Mhm.
They've got that new one out about the nuclear scare in Hawaii. From the
Mhm.
morning I wake till the end of the world, I think it's called. That was quite beautiful.
Mhm.
Um, let's see, there's some really fun games out there, like the virtuality is really cool. Good times there. Tender Claws have something, oh god, I can't remember what Tender Claws is called. um oh, what's it called? The Under Presents, which is really great theatrical experience that you can go and like kind of sometimes they have live actors in there, to kind of like really kind of bring their projects home.
Yeah.
There's like some really cool games out there. I don't know if you played Hyperdash. That's one of my favorites. Very good VR game, very good for social kind of VR. Um, and yeah, I don't know. There's like countless VR worlds, VR chat worlds.
Yes.
Um, Horizons is just starting up now. There's kind of
Mhm.
like there's the beginning of like, different kind of platforms where people are kind of, I think that there's going to be a lot more stuff to see coming up in the near future with the new kind of technology that's coming out.
Yeah.
But yeah, like my favorite is has always been Notes and Blindness, I have to say.
Mhm.
Um, And there's like a brilliant some brilliant 360 movies as well. Like Step to the Line is really great. It's a very touching documentary.
Yeah.
What else? Yeah, like off the top of my head, I can't think of anything
Yes.
anymore.
Yeah,
Sorry,
it's amazing. No,
I'm
Notes on
terrible with names.
Blindness is
Yeah,
amazing, yes.
yeah.
And of course, we're inviting anybody to go and check Anagram. We are anagram.co.uk, I
Yeah,
believe it's.
that's it. We are
We are
anagram.co.uk.
Anagram,
Yeah.
yes. So because there you're gonna find the work that the amazing studio is making. And also, I understand that Anagram can be involved in maybe workshops, talks.
Oh yeah,
They're open for all of that as well, right?
yeah, yeah. Amy and May are just fantastic speakers, and yeah, have
Yeah,
a lot to give.
amazing. So you can find amazing speakers as well. Thank you so much, Very.
Thanks.
It's been a lovely talk,
Yeah,
and I'm super grateful with all the insight that you shared with us today.
yeah. Well, thanks and good luck with everything. It's a
Thank
great
you
show.
so much, and see you in the next episode.
Okay,
Bye
thanks.
for now.
Bye.